Bitcoin and Ethereum have seen a major dump towards the downside. A lot of people are bearish right now, but personally I'm actually bullish. In today's video, I'm going to explain my next long ideas on Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also on Euro USD. We can see that Bitcoin, after getting that dump last week towards the downside, was consolidating right here over the weekend. While it was consolidating over the weekend, we can also see that Bitcoin was forming this reversal structure back towards the upside. Now, the problem with this reversal structure back towards the upside is that the price action that took place right over here was taking place over the weekend. And we know that every type of price action that takes place over the weekend, in this case, this very clean local sweep followed by this market structure break back towards the upside, cannot be trusted, because we know that over the weekend and also during bank holidays, the majority of the bigger players in the market aren't active. So any type of reversal structure that takes place, just like we saw this weekend, cannot be trusted. And we can see that it was being followed up by a very aggressive pump towards the upside without forming any local base, because we can see that Bitcoin was forming a big inefficiency over here, but also very big inefficient moves right over here for the price of Bitcoin. Whoops, you don't want your portfolio to drop like that, so make sure to like and subscribe, and let's keep things steady. This means that for now at least I'm leaning a little bit more bearish for the current week. We can also see that at the exact same time Bitcoin was taking out major buy-side liquidity right over here, and overnight it was taking out even more buy-side liquidity right over here. Now, after taking out all of this buy-side liquidity, we can see that if we navigate towards the 30-minute time frame, the Bitcoin is also shifting structure back towards the downside right here. So that means that, in my opinion, if the bears want to step in, right now is the time to do so. They have their drawn liquidity right over here, and also at the bottom of the previous price action that took place over the weekend, around $108,620,000. We are getting a break of structure towards the downside over here after taking out buy-side liquidity. So this is the moment for bears to step in and to see a move back towards the downside. This means that, in my opinion, bears need to protect the current daily high, which also got put in during hour 1. And we know that the first hour of the day is a pretty strong hour to put in a potential strong daily pivot before seeing some expansion towards the downside. So in my opinion, if the bears want to gain back control and see a bearish weekly candle towards the downside, they need to currently protect the daily high. I believe that if Bitcoin trades back above this daily high later today, I think we squeeze a lot higher, probably towards $117,000, $118,000. I am not sure yet if I'm already interested in executing shorts, to be honest, with my invalidation above that current daily high, because we can see that the local trend is very strongly towards the upside. So there could also definitely be a scenario that we sweep some sell-side liquidity and then trade back higher. But for now, I do think that the odds are slightly higher to get a bit more of a bearish day today, and actually a remainder of the week, compared to trading back above that current daily high and then seeing another squeeze back towards the upside. So I will be looking for some local confirmations to get short on Bitcoin, targeting the weaker liquidity at the bottom right over here. A lot of you guys are still struggling to turn trading into something professional, sustainable and profitable. I think most of you guys are struggling with that because you guys are lacking data. Data that proves the profitability of your trading system, but also data to back up high probability versus low probability trading ideas. In Tribe Capital, we are teaching all of this, and you guys can now get access for 14 days for just $1. I think it's the best trading community in the space, but obviously I'm very, very biased. All that you guys need to do to test it out for yourself is follow the first link in the description down below, fill out your information, and I'll catch you guys there. Now for Ethereum, I'm looking at a very similar scenario. We can also see that Ethereum was forming a local reversal structure right over here over the weekend, and after completing that reversal structure, seeing a push back towards the upside. That means that also Ethereum was generating quite a weakened liquidity. In this case, where Ethereum is not all the way at the bottom, but it's actually at this low over here, around $3,966 for Ethereum. Also, Ethereum is taking out quite some buy-side liquidity over here, and even more buy-side liquidity over here. Just like Bitcoin, also Ethereum, at the exact same time, when we navigate towards the 15-minute time frame on ETH, we can see that Ethereum was forming a local sweep of the high over here, and that local sweep of the high was being followed up by a bearish market structure break back towards the downside over here. So we are sweeping major buy-side liquidity we are sweeping local liquidity, and we are breaking back towards the downside with the bearish market structure break on the 15-minute time frame. So just like for Bitcoin, also for Ethereum, I feel like if bears want to step in and gain back some control, we need to hold this high over here. But now the bearish confirmations that I'm actually personally looking for is that either Bitcoin or Ethereum still takes out today's daily high, aka the high over here, while the other pair doesn't take out that high. Because what will happen if, for example, Ethereum takes out that high over here, right? But Bitcoin front runs that current daily high. In that case, what will happen is that we are going to form an SMT divergence over here, a smart money technique divergence that is indicating a potential bearish reversal. Now this is the kind of confirmation that I'm looking for in order to trade a high probability reversal towards the downside. Now if Ethereum, for example, takes out the high and Bitcoin doesn't, and then we see a local market structure break back towards the downside over here, now this is the type of confirmation that I'm actually looking for to get into a short over here on ETH with my invalidation then above the daily high, and then targeting that weak liquidity. So until that happens, I'm personally not too interested in a short on Ethereum nor Bitcoin with my invalidation above that current daily high. I'm kind of waiting for either Bitcoin or Ethereum to sweep that current daily high, or to form an SMT somewhere else, followed by another market structure break back towards the downside. And in that case, I am interested in shorts on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now another pair that I'm interested in for a potential short today actually is euro against the dollar, because we can see that on euro against the dollar, if I select the last 3 years of weekly data and I navigate towards the summary page of the Brighter Data platform, we can see that both based on time, which is on the left over here, and based on distance, the current weekly candle on EU is forming two massive warnings. We can see that based on time, 100% of weekly candles form their P1 after Sunday 9 p.m. at night, which is where the weekly candle opens for euro, meaning that the current weekly low was formed unusually early, and not a single weekly candle over the last 3 years of data has formed the first pivot during Sunday 9 p.m. at night. And we can also see that based on distance, there's another major warning being flagged for the current weekly low on EU, because we can see that 98.6% of weekly lows have a bigger wick to the downside before pushing towards the upside. That means if I mark out a weekly open over here on EU, and I'm also going to mark out that weekly closure over here on EU, we can see that indeed right after that weekly open, EU formed the weekly low right over here. Afterwards, it formed a weekly high, meaning that the weekly low is P1 and the weekly high is P2. And we can also see that from that weekly open price over here towards that weekly low, we only formed a move of negative 0.02%, meaning that the current wick towards the downside looks something like this. And you can almost not see it, right? If I use the rectangle to mark out that weekly wick to the downside, we can indeed see that we have barely any wick towards the downside, meaning that that level around 1.17 is a major draw on liquidity for me on EU. And actually, if we take out that level around this area, I'm interested in potential swing longs on EU, and I explained that in my Discord community. But until we take out that level, I'm actually interested in potential shorts on EU, because I'm expecting that current weekly low, that weak pivot for the current weekly candle, to get taken out somewhere throughout this weekly candle. So what I'm looking at is some bearish confirmations. And the first bearish confirmation has already been presented to us, because we have seen a major sweep of buy-side liquidity over here, followed by a bit of a rejection. Currently EU is taking out some buy-side liquidity over here again. Now what I'm looking for on EU is to get some bearish confirmations today. And with bearish confirmation, I mean also just like for Bitcoin and ETH, I'm looking for a bearish market structure break towards the downside over here, but I want the bearish market structure break to align with the bearish SMT. So if EU, for example, over here forms a higher high, I want DXY, the dollar, not to form a lower low, but actually to form a higher low. If that happens, in that case, we are looking at an SMT divergence on EU. If that one is followed by a market structure break towards the downside on a 5-minute or preferably actually 15-minute time frame, in that case I will be a shorter of EU over here with my invalidation above that high, and then I will be targeting lower levels around that current weekly low right over here for the price of euro against the dollar. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys did enjoy today's video, make sure to smash the like button, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Ciao, ciao!